This is the A to Z podcast. I'm Zach Jackson. He's Andre Knott. Shouts, as always, to Honeymoon Grill, to Scene, to American Fireworks, to Cleveland Whiskey for helping to make this happen. Shouts to you guys for helping this thing grow. A to Z podcast.com, facebook.com/A to Z podcast. And I'm going back to Cali. So we're talking Browns and Niners and all sorts of football. Before we do that, good morning, Andre.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Look at you going back. All right, this will show your true age. This will show ours. If you say going back to Cali, are you singing the LL version or the Biggie version?
The Biggie version. I'm an LL fan. Probably Mama Said Knock You Out was probably one of my first rap songs. And
No doubt.
I got to see LL perform. Let's just play American Fireworks Glory Days right off the top. I got to see LL perform inside the Browns Fieldhouse one night during rookie night. So now, now you see these fancy presentations, and Hard Knocks really blew it up. But the Browns digital team, and shouts to them, by the way, they've been awesome. They shared Baker doing the John Dorsey, right? And now, every coach, every camp kind of has rookie show structured differently. But back in the day, when there was Carmen's Browns and Butch's Browns, and every day was a damn party. They would set up a stage. They would set up a stage in the field house and set up chairs, and they would do the rookie show, and the coaches would talk a little business, and then they would bring in a musical act. And I saw both Run DMC and LL Cool J
Run DMC,
in the field house. How about that?
That's awesome. Think about, and I don't know if you touched this in the book, and I don't know if we've really had this conversation, and we don't have to do a long time on it. We just talked about what Carmen tried to bring to the Browns. And it's funny they're playing the 49ers this week, so it kind of plays into it perfectly. Even though that Dwight Clark was, and I've had some great conversations with some people from the 49ers just about Carmen and what he was trying to do here in Cleveland. And I think for most of our listeners, go back to 99, this seems like a long time ago. But Carmen tried to bring a winning atmosphere to Cleveland. He tried to treat the players like they treated Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. Am I correct? Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely.
He wanted to build them to be the Niners, right?
Yeah. Under Carmen and Lerner, it was the best of everything, right? I mean, they wrote a lot of checks for a lot of. They had the best services. They continued to upgrade the facility. Something that's we talk about 17 remakes of the facility. That's no exaggeration. The problem is they didn't always make the right hires, and then it just never got the traction. Right. And then when Mr. Lerner passed, which was only 3 years into the team being back, Carmen saw the writing on the wall. It wasn't for him anymore. So, he instituted some things. They swung and missed on some things. But, back then it was spare no expense. It was try to get the best people to do the jobs. And in some cases they hit. In some cases they missed. And it was kind of wild. At the time, Butch Davis was the hot name, right? And they made up their minds that Chris Palmer wasn't the guy. And they were going to go get him. The famous story that I really have never been able to confirm is that they sold the deal with Butch's wife by promising they would put a heating system underneath their driveway of their house so they wouldn't have to shovel. That sounds to me, Dre, like one of those things that's too ridiculous to not be true, but you never know, right? In the realm of things.
I'm pretty sure it's true. Yeah. I can tell you I'm pretty sure it's true because Triv used to tell me how the Lerners had one at their house. And how much it cost, and he knew the people that put it in. So I'm 98% sure that is a true story.
Yeah, and then it just took off the cycle of ridiculousness where Carmen stepped down but thought he'd be around for a year, and they bring in a guy who has really no or little NFL experience, and he hires like 11 new vice presidents, right, and then wants to be involved with football like everybody else. It's just the cycle that's gone on and on and on. And Randy Lerner really wanted to follow his dad's lead in that we're going to give them the best of everything, and I'm going to stay out of the way. But, they didn't have a Carmen. He didn't really have any strong leadership for a long time, and it became the shit show that it's been. So it's funny you brought that up. But anyway, I thought, well, first of all, when I was about 5 or 6, my mom's going to shit her pants laughing when she says this. I was in a lip sync contest at Summit Mall to Run DMC Walk This Way.
What? Are you kidding me?
Thank God there's no video.
I got $100 bounty. $100 Andre Not Bounty if anybody gives me that tape. Hell, I'll make it $250. Come on, Miss Jackson. Woo! I'll buy Christmas gifts this year. I gotta see you Run DMC. And, oh my God! You say walk this way? Is that what you do? Aerosmith.
Walk this way. That song, yeah. You know, everybody eventually has a few songs that takes them to a place in time, right? And
no doubt.
That was probably the first one for. I don't know if it was the first. It's one of the first ones for me, and it's to this day. You don't hear it very much anymore. But yeah, you know, it's funny because I was never like Adidas. Thank God I was never really dressing like those guys were. You know, I was totally into dressing like Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer a few years later.
That throwback picture you put up the other day on Instagram got me to chuckle a little bit. Did the Plain Dealer come take a picture of you and talk about you when you wrote your first book?
Yeah, they sure did. So what they would do back then, this is when newspapers were a thing, is they would do for the football preview, there would be a lead like on every conference or every county or whatever, and so they tried to give me a little pub for the book as kind of the lead to either the Pac-7 preview or the Southern Summit County preview, whatever it was. So yeah, that was some pretty good pub. I think I sold 300 of those. I was pretty damn proud of myself.
Damn. So you should probably be able to hit that, hopefully, with this new book. I'm hoping, right?
Well, hopefully. Early returns are positive, but it's a long way to Christmas.
That's good.
For me and for the book.
That's good. It's a long time for Chris Isaac. Way to sell it, partner. Way to sell it. Is there a nervousness? Like when I put together like for TV, if I like do multiple interviews and then I kind of, like I know what I put together, but then I put it in the hands of my producers or camera guys, and like for a minute I sit on my hands and I'm like, man, I hope they package it this way or they do it this way. Did you go through any of that with this book that you just got done writing? Like once you put it in, are you?
Next week, let's do a whole pod on the book, right? And if people don't want to listen, they don't have to.
Perfect.
But I will answer that by saying yes. Again, shout out to my mother who was my proofreader. The real video to have is the 2 hours of us screaming and cussing each other at the kitchen table over things. She did catch some errors, but then she just thought some things should be changed, and I pretty much told her that she was wrong.
Right.
So that was good. So it was funny because what you do is you pour your life into it for a certain amount of weeks or months, right? And then it's over, and you have just this big come down, like any big project that you do. Right. So then you just pray that there's only like 1 or 2 errors instead of 9 or 10. Especially in today's day and age, right, where people are going to find them out, point them out, and when I make an error in the Athletic or whatever, I can go back and fix it. In a book, you can't do that. So it's funny when Ed Reed went in the Hall of Fame at the beginning of August, I wrote that story on some of the Browns, with recollections of Ed and some of the things he did, and I was going back through box scores and games, making sure dates and numbers matched up, and I was convinced that I messed something up to the point that at 4 a.m. I woke up in a cold sweat thinking like a whole chapter of the book was the wrong year.
Damn.
And so like I was that 2 hours later I was sprinting to find out I was wrong. But yeah, it sticks with you, like when you actually pour your heart into
for sure.
So yeah, that was But anyway, I look forward to doing that.
No, I can see that.
So yeah, one quick announcement on that front. October 15th is the official release, and then October 14th, if you're local here, Summit County, Northeast Ohio, Dano's Lakeside Pub in Akron on the Portage Lakes, 7:30 that night, and there'll be formal announcements next week. But Monday night, the 14th, will be the official release party where I'll be signing books. Baseball's over, so hopefully Dre will be there. Be drinking some beers and telling some stories.
I'm coming. Yeah, and I'm not getting in the water. Hopefully there'll be some Confederate flag. No, it'll be a good night. We'll have fun. I look forward to that day. November 16th is my wife's foundation party at the Barley House down in Cleveland with the celebrity bartenders. I'm sure we'll get a couple of these books, copies of those books that we'll be throwing at people one way or the other. I got to tell you, you've known all week long that I just got done, and you do this all the time. And we'll have this conversation and talk some football. I spoke to the University of Akron women's basketball team about communication, interviews, and social media. And I got to tell you, Zach, everything that I've tweeted or thought about tweeting for the last week, I kept thinking these girls are going to listen to me talk, and they're going to see the idiot that I deal with on social media. And they're going to go, how the hell is this guy going to tell us? I'm just like, it made me look at everything that you say and do on social media. And I know you've been through this, but sitting with a group of college women from 22 to 18, and and they're in a different world than I. Like, I literally had to ask them if they knew who Dennis Rodman was. And do you know, I'd say only 3 girls on the team knew who Dennis Rodman was.
Wow. And they're hoopsters.
It freaked me out.
Yeah.
And they're hoopsters. And I mean, they kind of knew, but they kind they was kind of like, but I mean, his heyday was what, the 90s? When they were, like when you started, like in the mid 90s. But, and I don't know how I had that conversation. We were just talking about, answering questions from reporters. And I told the story about how Dennis Rodman, even though he's playing with Michael Jordan, who they knew, how Dennis Rodman became like the most popular player on the team. And it wasn't because of what he was doing on the field. And this was before social media. And I was just trying to explain to him how you can be popular for all the wrong reasons, when social media comes along and things of that nature. But I was so blown away that none of them knew Dennis Rodman. I didn't know where to go from there. I was like standing in front of him. I'm like, well, holy shit, I'm old. Fuck. I'm like, what do I say now? Like, you don't know Dennis Rodman?
The other thing, too, and that's just, it makes you feel old. But the other thing is, in this situation where you're dealing with social media and whatever, what we have to understand, and what I think the smart coaches and administrators understand, is these kids grew up with this, right? Like, this has been their whole life. So we have the very sad demise of SI this week, and you see all people our age and 10 years older than us talking about the thrill of running to the mailbox and getting SI, or sitting on a chair, or jumping in your bed, right, and reading SI cover to cover. Whereas these kids have watched stuff on YouTube. That's what they've done, right? This is how they've communicated. And, part of that comes from Freddie Kitchens talking about it kind of dismissively. But what he's said when he's done that, and this is mostly in the offseason, is I'm not going to sit here and give you guys a quote about Baker did this or Baker did that or Baker clapped back at Colin Cowherd, because that's what he's been doing, right? Like, this is the generation that has their own mixtapes, whether you're fucking good or not, right? You're on Huddle and on YouTube, whether you're good or not. Those girls that got recruited by Akron U, some of them got seen the old-fashioned way by the pipeline and by playing in the right summer showcase. But a lot of them sent their highlights around and hoped somebody called them back, right?
It's true.
It is true. It is true. And so they've been in the world of rankings and being out there and all of that stuff. And that's why it's so hard for them to understand that you can say that one false step on social media can blow it all up for you, because they've never thought about it that way. This has always been their mode of communication. And, one thing I say is the right way to do it is just to say, don't tweet it, don't post it, don't do all that. But the fact is, when you're on one of those 4-hour bus rides, when you play women's basketball, the MAC or the Horizon or wherever, the very first bus ride, you should take the time and delete every one of your old damn tweets just in case.
Yep. Well, I put the coach. You're right. I put the coach on I go, Coach. I go, have you ever not recruited somebody because of their social media? And she said, yep. And I said, you're telling me a female under the age of 18 can tweet or post something that will make you not recruit them? And she goes, yes, indeed. And to me, I go, that's the story. I go, no, imagine you guys all got scholarships and were able to come here to play basketball. Imagine not being able to get a job because of something you tweet from here now. I go, because it's amazing. You're right. They've grown up on it. They see it so differently than we see it. And we're jackasses that are on it every day. Yep. And the Sports Illustrated thing does get to me. And it's funny you brought it up, because I was going to bring it up too. Because you're right. It used to come on Thursdays at my house. And, man, that was everything. And I'll admit, and I'm in a bad place. I'm in a weird place when it comes to reading, because I still do it. I actually got Sports Illustrated last year because it was like for free. It was like $35, whatever. It was like $25 for like 2 years. And I remember my wife being like, why would you get this? She goes, you barely even read it. And I'm like, well, when I go on the road, when I'm on a plane, I'll read it, or when I'm in a hotel room. That's what I sold myself with, Zach. And unfortunately, I'm not the guy I was 20. Like, I used to read it as soon as I saw it 30 years ago. And I have a Sports Illustrated in my book bag right now that's probably from end of July, early August. But I still haven't cracked open. Just because half the stories I already read online. And I used to love reading magazines, and I don't know if I'm ever have that love again. It's weird.
Yeah, it is. All the tweets, and obviously being in the business that we're in, when this affects people that we know, and everyone in our business has a Twitter account. It's a lot more out there than some of the things that go on, right? But I think that one of the most powerful ones I saw is that the essence of Sports Illustrated, what made it the giant that it was observing, right? It was bringing your athletes to life. It was bringing these incredible stories to life, whether it was a big game or some obscure story of the Amish basketball coach, the black Amish basketball coach in Ohio, right, that nobody knew.
Yeah.
And it was observing and bringing those to life. And now so much of journalism is not observing. It's just putting one number out there and arguing, right? It's just putting one quote out there and blasting it out, whether there's context or not. And that's what these kids have grown up with, too. So I'm happy as hell, obviously, to be involved with The Athletic and to still be telling stories and the growth that we've had. I have questions in 10 years when this generation that's only grown up with social media and, this headline, clickbait, 3-paragraph journalism. Will they even want to read that the way we just longed for those Sports Illustrateds and fought over them with our dads, right? I don't know.
Right.
I think so.
Right.
I hope so. But when you haven't been born with it, it's not ingrained in you. There are a lot of people that looked and thought SI, well, whatever, because shoot, even think about it. LeBron making the cover, which really, even though the explosion had happened and we knew that because Deion had been around, because Shaq had been around, because all the shady other characters had been around. But that really marked the arrival, right? And that, I think, was in late 2002, so that's 17 fucking years ago.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that did change the world. And like you said, we already knew him. We already, because like everybody came, but when he was on that cover, I also want to say that same week, what was the TV show that did the Sunday, not the Dan Rather one. Because they had Deion Sanders
60 Minutes. 60 Minutes did one,
Yes. I remember, with that, kind of going, this is amazing that 60 Minutes is sending Deion Sanders into the jar to interview LeBron James, and he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. That seems so long ago, but it seems like yesterday at the same time.
The Chosen One cover was February 2002. So that would have been the end of LeBron's junior year. So, I was right. This decaying brain was right about that one, which it usually is about generally useless information. I'm usually right on top of that shit.
That's why your book should roll, right?
Because how it went was the breakout basketball-wise, outside of the AAU circles and whatever, came in his sophomore year when they played Oak Hill down in Columbus, when Oak Hill had Sagana Diop, Billy Edelin, and Rashad Caruth. And then the breakout as a celebrity, as the slam dunk pick in the draft, as a guy who was never going to be eligible for college, who was already doing this and that, was really his junior year. That's when the games started to be on TV and on pay-per-view and moved to the jar and all that shit. That's when that really started.
Wow. That's amazing. So, and he's still getting ready. He's getting ready for a 17th season.
17th season.
Which is amazing.
I remember last year when I found out that his shoes were called the 16, LeBron 16s, because it was his 16th year. I never did the math on that.
What is wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you?
Well, that's how I know my brother's getting old, too, because he was a year behind him, right? So, this is LeBron's 35. See, LeBron turns 35 a few days after Christmas. So, Father Time is undefeated.
Undefeated. Y'all better believe it. Don't forget about it, because that is the God honest truth. It is undefeated. Speaking of undefeated, before we get to the Browns and 49ers, Any football team? What's the biggest surprise to you so far that's happened in the NFL season?
Oh, the biggest.
Mine is the Saints being able to win without Drew Brees has been pretty big to me, and how good their defense actually played last week.
Yeah, it was an ugly game, but it was what they wanted. It was what they needed. They answered that. I'm going to tell you the biggest surprise of football season, and I thought this is where you were going when you said undefeated. Ohio State, I knew they'd be good. They're always good.
Oh.
They look really good. Really good. And, it's the first weekend of October, and there's been like 3 games in the whole country where it's been quality versus quality, right? So it's hard to say.
You're right.
But their raw talent, which you knew they had. Their defensive line talent, which all the great teams have. The quarterback oozing with talent, still needs polish. All the guys around him, even after losing those 3 receivers to the NFL. I mean, this team is really, really good. And I think I told you when I went to Florida before the season and visited my friends, my friend was like, I want to bet Ohio State. I'm like, sure. And he's like, for $300. Here, I'm going to give you this. Can you get this in 15-1? And I was like, yeah. So the next week I went and got in this ticket. And, I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but the way they're playing, you got to feel like they're in the playoff. And if you get in the tournament, you got a chance to win it.
They got a hell of a chance. What is it about having – and I don't have the answer, and I haven't watched the full game, but I've watched enough to know. I think it's amazing that you get a new coach, and you can just tell that he doesn't have the same I don't want to say hang-ups, but he doesn't have the same – you know what I mean? Like, he's out there aggressive, and I was worried that he would come in and he would try to find himself. How much do you think coaching last year when what's his name was out has helped him? Because he seems so at ease.
Yes. I think that was a huge deal just because you eliminate a lot of the things that you just don't know about, right? You're there, you're in the moment. And so all the uncertainties with how do I handle a game management situation? How do I handle when some kid comes out of nowhere on Wednesday and wants to transfer or his grandma died or something like that? How do you handle just the logistics of a road trip in a strange week, a short week, or a 8 p.m. game? I think those are all big deals. I really do. And I think that's really served Ryan Day well.
And Ohio State didn't set this up this way. It all just worked this way. Obviously because of the suspension or whatever else. But I think that's playing into it more than anything else, because I will even say this. The thing that I like about Ohio State, and like you said, it's October, the beginning of October. I like that the talent is actually playing up to its ability. I felt like at times Herb would get caught in the midst of trying to take care of this quarterback. And look, this happens. You're trying to take care of this quarterback, so you run this offense. You're trying to take care – I just felt like the athletes never – like I felt like Urban's Florida teams, they prospered because he got the best and the best went out there, and they were able to flourish. I'm not saying they didn't flourish at Ohio State, because obviously they put – multiple cornerbacks into the league, multiple wide receivers. They have, the multiple running backs. There's something different about this Day team so far. I'm not saying he's better. I'm not saying he's worse. And I think sometimes when you're new at something, it's a fresh breath of air, I guess is what I'm really looking at. And it's fun to watch.
And I think if you look at Urban's track record, that's what it needs to be, right? You go to a certain point, but you go so hard, and certain things happen along the way that you need that change, right? And what do they say in the NFL all the time? If you've got a defensive-minded disciplinarian one time, you better hire an offensive players coach the next time, right? And, I'm not going to sit here and claim to know a ton. I would recommend those of you who have The Athletic, look up Ari's story from when he went to his hometown, Manchester, by the way, New Hampshire, back in the summer. It was a really good glimpse of Ryan Day. I've never met Ryan Day personally. I know how highly regarded he was throughout football, and more than just Mike Vrabel wanted him in the NFL. I don't know for sure if he knew this was coming at Ohio State, but I think he's been a great fit. And when you talk about what went on before him and what Urban Meyer did and all this talent on hand, for a guy to go in a situation that's almost no win, right? Because the first time he loses a game, it's like, get that bum out of here. And there's a lot of season left, so they can lay an egg along the way, because we've all seen it happen. College football is completely unpredictable. But I just like the way this team has handled its business on a week-to-week basis. Cincinnati's a really good team. They whomped them. Going to Indiana, not easy. They whomped them. Going to Nebraska last week, again, nothing to lose or nothing to gain, everything to lose. They absolutely blow them out of the stadium. New guys at new spots. Really impressive start for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, they embarrassed Nebraska. Martinez is still looking for his job. Martinez got the hell beat out of him, and I know he's not a great passer, but I just like and tell you what, that defense number 2, that kid can start for the Browns on Monday night. That kid,
number 1 pick.
He is. Yeah, it's no doubt. I mean, think about what they've accomplished with that position over the last 6 years. Like they got top 3 picks at defensive every single year now. That is amazing to me. And that position is one of the most important positions in all of football now, right? I think we would all agree that if you don't have a defensive end that can bring it, then you're behind the 8 ball and trying to win football games right now. And they've got the best in the country year in and year out.
I agree. That's where it starts. Urban said that from day one when he arrived on campus. He got to have that defensive line, and they have it. And then among a bunch of rare guys, and obviously we're talking about a program that's had the Bosa brothers for the last 6 years, right?
Yeah, right.
Here comes this guy who's not like them and maybe isn't the player right now, but is certainly every bit the prospect that those guys are. And
I think he is the player. I thought he was when he would bump him inside last year. I know what you're saying. Look, he's only, but I think he can do everything the Bosas can do, and maybe a little bit more.
Yeah,
maybe.
He's getting there. The important thing is he's getting better every week, and that's scary as shit. And last I checked, Michigan State's injuries had them left playing a true freshman left tackle against him tomorrow night. So congrats and good luck.
Oh. All right, when do you take off for Cali? And San Fran, do you remember the last Saturday? Okay, so are you gonna go out? Your aunt doesn't live out there anymore, does she?
She's in the process of moving, so I'll actually get to see her briefly. We were going to go to the Stanford and Washington game, but
that's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
But Stanford stinks, and it's a 7:30 local kick, which means 10:30 here, and I'll be up at 5 in the morning. So even I'm not sure I have that in me.
Well, you can go see Aunt Joy that listen to the podcast. I'm sure she'd be up.
I could do
rather
that.
Than you, yeah. She always comes and sees me when I do the games out in Oakland. Great listener, one of the funniest texters in the world, and I'm sure by the end of the weekend she'll be texting me crazy stuff when she sees where I'll pop up on TV this weekend. But that's nor here nor there, and we'll leave that as a secret. That's like, I haven't been to the new stadium. I know you've been to the new stadium. That's a different part of the world. When you go out there, Jimmy Garoppolo, I like what they're doing, but I looked at their roster before I knew I was going to do this with you, and like their running backs, like I know them, but the receivers, Kyle Shanahan has put something pretty special together, and he's doing it with guys that the common folk barely have heard.
Right.
That, to me, is pretty impressive.
Right. We know what Kyle Shanahan's offense is. It's established to run and then get to the point where they dare you, right? Come up, devote extra guys to the run, and then we'll throw it over you, or we'll keep pounding away at it. And so it's been a running back by committee. They signed Jerick McKinnon a year ago. He has not played for them. They signed Tevin Coleman this year. He gets hurt the first game, so they've been doing it with guys like Raheem Mostert, who used to be on the Browns practice squad, Matt Breida, former late-round pick, Jeff Wilson up off the practice squad. One thing that's scary is they have George Kittle. We know how the Browns do against tight ends, and that's not well.
Yeah.
So you have to stop the run early. But on the other side, they don't have their left tackle, which means rookie against Myles Garrett. I see two good defensive lines. I see 21 points winning this game. I really do. I'm not comfortable with any other prediction other than that. I think it's a grinder. People say the 49ers haven't played anybody. They're probably right, but we also don't know just how good the 49ers are. How much did they have to clean up over the bye week? They should be fresh and healthy.
Right.
Nick Bosa hasn't really played. He's going to play. That's a big deal. They have 5 former first-rounders on that defensive line. They can get in passing lanes. They can get penetration without blitzing, and that is the way that you blow offenses up.
You just hit on what scares me about playing them. I think they have a strength, and I'm not going to call the offensive line for the Browns a weakness, Zach, but when you consider all the other toys the Browns have, and we talked about their toys earlier in the week, if you could have, and they've got all kinds of different, like the kid from Oregon who's like 6'8", like they've got every different type of defensive lineman you could, right? They can bring to the table, whether it's Bosa. That's where, and why you say this game is going to be a grinder. I think that's where the Browns are going to have to find their place. We talked earlier in the week how much we both enjoyed the offense going back to what we saw last year when I would always say Freddie was in his bag, when he would have the reverses and he would have all the different lineups, and he just gave teams a lot to take in, and then he would start throwing. I think we all get caught up in the trickery. Like I hate saying, like you when you see Landry running and he can pitch it or keep it, we get caught up. That's the sexy stuff. But what you don't see is Chubb had that 88-yard run on a sweep, basically, a toss. Well, they ran that toss a couple times last week. It wasn't just one time. That play was set up. Now, I heard people say, well, the toss was his easiest run of the day. And it's like, well, yeah, no. The reason it worked that way is because that block, Freddie allowed, and I think any good play caller, and I'm not just saying Freddie, I think, and I'm saying this as a former running back. Obviously, I didn't play on the NFL level. But I think when you run the football, sometimes just doing something, it's just like a free throw, Zach. When you get to do something enough and you get to see how the blocking scheme works and you see how guys play it, a good running back in my eye likes when you run a play 3 or 4 times in one game or 5. It's like, all right, I know. And you can almost see on that last run, it was like that was all set up from the time they ran in the first quarter to the time they ran in the third quarter to boom, everybody has their blocks, everybody has everything set up. Now, I'm curious, and I just saw that Landry's out of the protocol, which is good. How many more weeks? And I heard a good debate, and I'm going to give Emmett Golden, I'm going to give him a stamp on this, because it made me want, there's not many radio shows I can listen to that make me want to call in. But they were having a discussion, and I was totally against you, Emmett, if you hear this. And Emmett was kind of giving Beckham giving him some, like, hey, man, 2 catches, 20 yards. And his co-host was saying, man, he got the tight end open on the touchdown play. He made everything else work for the offense. And Emmett went back to him and said, yeah, but DeAndre Hawkins has double teams, triple teams every game, and he gives you 9 for 100 every week. And I agree with that. I don't want the Browns forcing the ball to Odell, but how many weeks can they go with not getting Odell the ball less than 5 times?
You mean for Odell's sanity or for team production?
See, I don't care about fantasy. You know that. I'm talking about
no, I said
how
sanity.
long can you go?
Yeah.
Oh, sanity. I'm sorry. I thought you said fantasy. I'm sorry. Yeah, sanity. Sanity is a good word for it.
Well,
it's a great way of putting it.
Look, they have gone out of their way, both Monken and Freddie, to say that the guy played a great football game in terms of blocking, in terms of being a decoy, in terms of whatever. He threw a punch, he got choked out, whatever. That's all part of the experience. It's been 4 games. It's been 4 games. He's had 1 monster game. He's had 2 okay ones. There's an outside story every game. This is what the Browns signed up for, right? But he does play. Yeah. He is so talented that he does demand attention. And he plays with a level of enthusiasm and spirit. And this is what people said all along, is whatever it is, or whatever the number of things are that finally drove the Giants to say, oh, we know we just signed him to $65 million, but we've seen enough. The guy loves football. He comes to practice. He shows up in the games. He does the little things. And so to answer your question, if the answer is Jarvis catches that many and has 2 big ones and goes, then it's working just fine. And I do think the Browns have found something with Nick Chubb, and I want to talk about him too. But, it's fair to wonder that, how long you can go. But in this league, each week really is its own beast. It's its own chess match. Games take on a life of their own via matchups, via who's available, via game situations, right? There could be a time the Browns are down 17 and Odell catches a bunch of them and the numbers are great, the performance isn't, right? There could be a time when they struggle for 3 quarters and he catches that slant and takes it all the way, and then life's beautiful again, right? It could be one of 3 catches on the whole day. So you don't know that. I still think it's too early for conclusions, and I hesitate to fully use the word breakthrough last week for the offense. But I did see a group that's hit its stride, and most importantly, no longer is week 1 hovering over every evaluation, right? You're kind of excited to see if they can build on that.
No doubt. You said 2 things about Odell that I'm glad you said. You did something that most journalists can't do. You gave all sides of who he is. Yes, there's a side story after every game, and that drives me insane. But you said the main thing and why the Browns made the trade and why it's working and why I think my question won't matter. And I can't believe I'm saying that. But I did ask a question where I was doing what we all typically do. You said it. He loves football. And you can tell how he plays, how he blocks. Like, we make a big deal about Baker Mayfield running 90 yards down the field and being childish and waving his arms. And on one hand, it's awesome to see an NFL quarterback that excited for his team. On the other hand, growing up with coaches my whole life, all I'm thinking is if that play gets called back, his ass has got to go back and take a snap from the 5-yard line with no breaths. Somebody's going to cuss him out. But that's just, like I said, that's not me being negative. I've grown up around coaches. That's how coaches think. But the Beckham thing, I think, is very interesting just because I think the thing that everybody says instantly is, well, they better get the ball to Odell. They better get the ball to Odell. If Odell loves football the way we both see he loves it, and I'm not going off of quotes. I'm going off of watching him. Like watching how he plays. You can to me, I can tell if a guy loves the game by how he plays. He has to understand the more Jarvis gets off, the more we let Chubb be the best player on the offense that he is, my day is coming. And it's like you could like, and it may not be like you said. You may get some trash numbers, but sooner or later the big plays are coming for him. Especially if you can feed Jarvis the way they fed Jarvis, and you can get my guy that's coming off suspension going the right way this week as well.
I agree. I think this offense is trending in the right direction. There are some great challenges ahead, and not just for the offense. I mean, I watched most of the game last night. Russell Wilson was a freaking clinic on how to play quarterback.
Right?
Oh, so we will see how that goes. Before we get to our obscure Browns player of the week.
Tom Reed wrote a story about how the Browns got the pick to get Chubb. I haven't read it all the way. And you said you want to talk about Chubb. Can you give us a cheat sheet on how they got that draft pick? Because he's going to be a Pro Bowler. He is amazing to me.
Well, it was part of the trade for the Brock Osweiler trade. It was that pick. So
right.
They make the Brock Osweiler trade. They don't trade for. Then they make the other one for Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson starts tearing it up, gets hurt, kind of falls in their lap. The Browns weren't going to take Sony Michel. They were hesitant of the knee, but they liked Rashad Penny and Nick Chubb, and the Seahawks took Penny in the first round. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Because I'd take Chubb over Penny every day of the week.
Every day of every week. Question. What the hell would you do if you were in the open field and Nick Chubb was running at you?
Shoot for one of his big-ass legs and hope he didn't kick me in the mouth.
Yeah. And then when you woke up on Wednesday, what would you do?
I'd quit. I'd turn in my retirement papers. He's a bowling ball. And his speed, though, he's got the combination, man. And I heard Deke going with Dustin. And he said he's got a chair here with Lima and Carmen. And he said he's got a chance to be the best Browns running back since the big guy. Talking about Jim Brown. And Deke, don't say much. Other than calling you a bitch,
yep.
You don't say stuff like that very often about many young players.
No, when I did my predictions column at the ahead of the start of the season, obviously, some I really believe in, some you try to be spicy, some you're just trying to fill in the gaps, right? And then, of course, people come in and take exception because even though it's predictions and not facts, everybody knows better than you. And the one that was most maligned was when I said Chubb would be 12 touchdowns and 1,200 yards. And that seems, it's a long way because even a guy built like him can get hurt.
That seems easy.
But, damn.
You know what I worry about? Is him getting dinged up before Kareem comes back. He's got to share his time with him. I've told you all along, I'm not worried about the receivers. I'm worried about you got two of the top 6 running backs in football if Hunt can stay out of trouble over these next 6 weeks or so.
All right, we got 5 minutes left here. We are going to give our Cleveland Whiskey is the sponsor of our Obscure Browns Player of the Week segment. Cleveland Whiskey on October 12th, 2 to 6 at the distillery East 25th Street in Cleveland. We'll have more information on this on social media. But they're launching the Christmas bourbon. Again, October 12th. That's next Saturday, 2 to 6 at the distillery, teaming up with GV Art. And it's a big day for Cleveland whiskey, a product you should check out. Our Obscure Browns Player of the Week goes back to, 2007, right, Dre?
Mm-hmm.
He's still in the league. We thought he was going to hang them up, but he returned this week. The Houston Texans signed him. He is Mike Pops Adams. He started his career as an undrafted nobody with the 49ers. That's why we picked him for this week. The Browns got him
Delaware,
for nothing.
Right?
Yeah, what's that?
He went to Delaware.
Delaware,
correct,
Delaware Blue Hen out of Patterson, New Jersey.
Yep.
A place that's the worst of the worst, quite frankly. He came to the Browns. He did everything. He played special teams. He played both safety spots. He made a nice career, and obviously it's still going. Pops is a good guy on and off the field. We really like him, and I know we got a chuckle out of seeing him still in the league. But some guys are made for this shit, right? And Mike Adams is a guy we will never forget, and a really low-key but important player for a lot of Browns teams.
Well, what he's been able to do and to have a career still in 2019, a smaller guy, not big, took care of his body, never drank, never did things like that. But he also understood when he came in. Think about this. He came in, as you just said, special teamer, had to earn everything he had. He literally, when he came to the Browns, I remember asking him, what do you do? And he was like, brother, I'm going to be a Swiss Army knife. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I'm going to do anything and everything that they ask me to do. I'm not a cornerback. I'm not a safety. I'm a football player. Lo and behold, after he played for the Browns, 5 years, went to Carolina. And he went to Carolina, Zach, and became a Pro Bowler at like 34 years old. To me, we need more stories. We need to tell more stories about Mike Adams, who's helped out in Patterson, New Jersey, who does turkey giveaways in Jersey. He comes from the bottom of the bottom, but he's rose to the top and found a way to stay there. And I think he's one of the amazing NFL stories that you may not see on NFL Kickdown or any of those TV shows, but he's truly what the NFL is about, because we all know those three letters stand for not for long. And somehow Pops has stood around a lot longer than anybody else from that draft class that he didn't get drafted in, or anybody else that ever saw him play growing up in Patterson, New Jersey. So I tip my hat to Pops, and I'll never forget, I never saw somebody talk so much shit when I was on the Browns sideline to the Gunners. He's the one that made Josh Cribbs into a great gunner. He would constantly tell Cribbs, you want to make it in the league? Be like me, dog. Beat that guy's ass. And I would watch him when they were lined up to be gunners. Adams would yell at Cribbs, you going to let him beat you? You going to let him take your money? You going to let him feed your kids? And if you know Pops, he had a way to motivate those guys. And I know when I talk to Cribbs now, one of the first names he always brings up to the success he had was Mike Adams. So salute to Mike Adams being our guy of the week this week.
I would say let's have Mike on the podcast when he retires, but I'm not sure we're going to be alive by the time he finally hangs him up. So.
He may last longer than us.
Some things are upsets and some are just meant to be. Shouts as
it's
always
funny,
to
but
see.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, because when Pops was here, he used to call me and ask me to come do TV with him and do that TV show on Thursday nights, because he would say to me, brother, I don't know what's my next step, so I got to be ready to go on TV once football's over. 11 years later, he's still playing, Zach. That's crazy.
It really is. It really is loony. Shouts as always to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, American Fireworks. It's bonfire season. It's lovely outside. AmericanFireworks.com is open 24/7 for all your fireworks needs. It's Friday as we record this. The Browns play Monday night. You know that. I get back to town Tuesday night. So we will be at it sometime mid next week. Back on the podcast train. Buckeyes are off next week. Browns come home and play a big one. Dre, I don't know that this is an important stretch for the Browns to measure themselves. Based on what I've seen, though, as long as they stay healthy, as long as the offense can make incremental improvements, I don't think they necessarily need to run off a bunch of wins here. I think they need to stay afloat and then get good in November.
Yeah, tread water, baby. Tread water. That's what it's all about nowadays. You tread water. Have a good flight out to California. Enjoy it. Get you a good book to read or something. And don't let the time change mess you up. And don't go anywhere I wouldn't go in San Fran.
Konnichiwa, Tupac. Talk to you next time on A to Z.